everyone, welcome back. We are in part 9 of the GT improvement course. Before we jump into multiplying and dividing fractions, we're going to do a real quick review of adding and subtracting fractions. So I have 8 problems here for you to do, and the reason that I've given you so many is from what I've heard from soldiers taking the AFCT, fractions are like every other problem in the questions. So it's super important for you to be really proficient at fractions. So I've got 8 problems here for you to practice. Go ahead, pause your video and solve. These ones you're adding, subtracting, you've got some reducing, and then some more adding. Okay, so I'll show you the answers when we come back. All right, so let's go over these answers. For number 1, you had a common denominator, which was the denominator in your answer. So it got you 8/16, which it could be reduced to 1/2. So that was your answer for number 2. Number 1. For number 2, again, we had a common denominator and we were subtracting. So just had to do 21 minus 10. Should have had 11 31s. For number 3, all you had to do was reduce. And if you divided the top and bottom by 2, you should have ended up with 21/50. For number 4, divide the top and bottom by 4, and you ended up with 9/20. For number 5, I canceled common zeros, which got me 24/100, which I then divided by 2, which got me 12/50, divided by 2 again, which got me a final answer of 6/25. For number 6, 9/13 plus 3/26. I chose the common denominator of 26. So I only had to change one of my fractions, which got me to 18/26 plus 3/26, which was 21/26. For number 7, I chose the common denominator of 18. That was the lowest common multiple. So my new fraction ended up being 14/18 plus 9/18, which got me 23/18. For number 8, this was a tricky one. There's 2 ways that you could have gone about this. For this one, what you could have done, I'm just going to cover this other part up real quick. For this one, what you could have done is chosen your common denominator by, I probably would have just multiplied the 2 numbers because 150 is a pretty easy number to work with. So I chose the common denominator of 150, and then let me just cover this up with a piece of paper here so I can point. All right, so with my common denominator of 150, my new fractions ended up being 75/150, and then plus 100/150. And then I added my tops, got 175/150, and then I reduced that fraction by dividing by 25 and got a final answer of 7/6. Another route that you could have taken is you can always reduce individual fractions, especially ones that are bigger like this, if possible. Because remember, smaller numbers are easier to work with. So what I would have done in this situation is I would have reduced 25/50 straight to 1/2, and then done 1/2 plus 2/3. Then I could choose the common denominator of 6. Then you would have added 3 plus 4, which is 7/6. So I think this way is a little bit faster. Remember, we're learning, so if you did it this way, that's okay. But remember, you can always reduce individual fractions. You could have done it here as well, but these numbers weren't too big, so I didn't worry about it. Could you have done it anywhere else in here? I don't think so. Yeah, so if you've got a bigger fraction, if you can reduce it, I would say go for it if it's easy. It might make your problem a little bit faster to work with. Okay, we're going to jump into multiplying fractions. All right, the good news is that multiplying and dividing fractions is way easier than adding and subtracting. All right, so when you are multiplying fractions, let's start there. So for the first example, I have 2/5 times 3/4. All you really have to do is do top times top and bottom times bottom to get you 6/20. It's really as easy as that. And then always simplify if possible. So 3/20, both of those are divisible by 2. So your final answer would be 3/10. All right, so top times top and bottom times bottom. Some of you might be thinking, oh, well, what about cross-canceling? We're going to talk about that in just a second, so hang tight. All right, so for your second one, 3/7 times 4/5, it's top times top. 3 times 4 is 12. 7 times 5 is 35. That can't be reduced any further, so we're done. All right, cross-canceling review. When you are multiplying fractions, what you may want to consider is cross-canceling. It is an optional thing to do, but it is definitely helpful because, like we just said, any opportunity that you can take to make numbers smaller might make working the problem easier, okay? So what we're doing with cross-canceling is we're looking at the numbers diagonal from each other. And we're looking if the numbers diagonal from each other can be divided by the same number to make them smaller. So for example, I know that 9 and 3 are both divisible by 3. So if I were to divide that by 3 and divide that by 3, I would cross them out and change them to my new numbers of 3, and then 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then same thing with 6 and 12. 6 and 12 are both divisible by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Let me just put the divided by 6. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. So this makes our numbers easier to work with, and it also reduces, it also takes away the having to reduce later. Sorry, couldn't get my thought out there. So cross-canceling helps us to not have to reduce later, which can make our work a little faster. So now I just work it as if with my new numbers. So 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 2 is 6, and you're done. So number 4, cross-canceling. I would divide the 5 by 5, which is, oops, sorry, this is why we do math in pencil. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 7 is 7. So that's a little bit easier, I think, than having to work out on the side 5 times 14, because I don't know that automatically in my head. All right, let's do this one. See if you can set this one up on your own. I'm going to work it quietly. Go ahead and do this one on your own as well. All right, so you should have gotten a final answer of 1/2. Okay, so I've got 4 problems for you to work on. Go ahead and pause your video and work those out and simplify or reduce if possible. All right, and I'll work out the answers for you when we come back. Okay, so for number 7, you should have gotten 2/35. Then we have 8/11, and then we have 5/12. And then we have 10/27. I am going to show you a picture of an app that might be really helpful for you when you're checking your work with fractions. It's a fraction calculator, so you can actually type in fractions and multiply, divide, add, subtract, whatever you need to do. So I'll show that picture for you.
Ooh.
All right, let's move on to dividing. All right, last part of the video is dividing fractions. The rule for dividing fractions is called keep, change, flip. Say that again, keep, change, flip. When you are dividing fractions, you have to keep the first fraction. You are going to change the division to multiplication, and you are going to flip the second fraction. So instead of 1/4, you're going to have 4/1. Okay? Keep, change, flip. I'm just going to say it again. When you're dividing fractions, you need to keep, change, flip. And by the way, the mathematically correct term for flipping a fraction is called the reciprocal. I'm just going to write that here. That is a word that you should write down and that you should know, because I have been told it was on the AFCT and they said they didn't remember what it was. Reciprocal. Reciprocal. Write that word down. When you flip a fraction, you are finding the reciprocal. Okay? So keep, change, flip, / reciprocal. Okay? All right, now this is just multiplying fractions, which we just did in the last video. I can't do any cross canceling, so it's just going to be top times top and bottom times bottom. And next video, I promise, we're going to talk about improper fractions and what those mean. Okay? All right, number 2. We are going to keep, change, and flip. Can I do any cross canceling? Sure doesn't look like it. So top times top and bottom times bottom. Done. All right, I think you've got the knack. So go ahead and do number 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 on your own. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to, and I'll work out the problems for you when you come. I'll work out the problems silently as we go here. All right, 1/2. All right, so for number 3, you should have gotten 25/24. You may ended up with 75/72. That can actually be reduced, and it reduces to 25/24. For number 4, I did some cross canceling and ended up with 2/3. For number 5, we ended up with 2/1, which is the same thing as the whole number 2. So if you ever need to make turn a whole number into a fraction, if you ever need to turn a whole number into a fraction, you just put it over 1. all right? Okay, and oh, with cross-canceling, I forgot to mention, if you have the same number across from each other, you can automatically cancel both of those out and put ones because you're dividing both numbers by itself. Okay, and then for number 6, you should have ended up with 5/24. All right, so hopefully you did well with dividing fractions. Next video, we're going to talk about mixed numbers and improper fractions. All right, see you there.